Hello, friends. So today I'll be talking on this 49th COVID update, interferons in COVID-19. So it's 5th May 2021. So these are new molecules that are being tested if it's going to show any benefit in COVID-19. So there are two molecules that are studied in interferons. So one is pegylated interferon lambda, and that's the typical structure of how it looks, the molecular structure. And the other molecule that is tested is pegylated interferon alpha 2b. So there are two studies. So there is one study that's come in Lancet, which has studied this PEG interferon lambda. And the second one is come from a study from India. So friends, as you know, these interferons have been tried in multiple viral infections, mainly the hepatitis C virus and hepatitis B virus. So these are the viruses in which these interferons have been tested and have shown some promising results. So this has been tested in COVID also to see whether it would show similar benefit. So I would urge the listeners to read this particular article. So this came in Lancet Respiratory Medicine on 5th February 2021. So it's a very detailed study. So they put a lot of effort in doing a lot of analysis, and they've looked at variable endpoints in this study. So it's quite a challenging paper to read. It's around 8 to 9 page manuscript. And this study was done by Canadian group. And the title is Pegylated Interferon Lambda for the treatment of outpatients with COVID-19, phase 2 placebo-controlled randomized trial. So although the number of patients they had in this study was pretty less, it was only around 60 patients, but the way they have conducted the study and all the detailing of the study is quite impressive. So if anyone has patience, I would urge them to read. It's quite a challenging paper to read through the whole content of it. So basically, I'll try to give you a brief summary. So this was a double-blind placebo randomized controlled trial. So here they compared pegylated interferon lambda with placebo. And this was administered to the patients who presented within 7 days of symptom onset. So this is something which listeners should bear in mind, that they have positioned this interferon lambda in the early part of the disease before 7 days of within 7 days of symptom onset. So that is an important point for the listeners to bear in mind. So if at all one is considering these interventions, it has to be considered very early in the course of the disease. So the dosage they gave was 180 micrograms subcutaneous as a single dose. So the primary endpoint they looked in this study was to look at the proportion of patients who became negative for COVID or coronavirus by day 7. And the other primary endpoints they looked was serious adverse events at day 14, which included patients needing hospitalization for worsening symptoms. So the study was conducted between 18th May 2020 to 4th September 2020. So just to understand the background of this whole interferon concept. So what is this interferon lambda? So there are three subsets of interferons, type 1, type 2, type 3, or they classify them as alpha, lambda, and gamma, so sort of an interference. Sorry, alpha, beta, and lambda interferons. So basically, whenever there is an exposure to the viral infection, there is innate immune response that gets activated. And this innate immune response, which gets activated, leads to expression of these interferons. And interferon lambda is one of the molecule that gets expressed following viral infection. And this interferon lambda, the receptors for this is very greatly expressed in epithelial cells of lung, liver, and intestine. So that is where this interferons act. And once this interferons gets represented after the viral infection, so there is expression of the genes, which typically happens once the interferon uh, gets expressed following a response to the viral infection. And these genes demonstrate antiviral activity, and they do express anti-proliferative effect and immunoregulatory effect. So basically, in brief, when a viral infection happens, there is this expression of all these interferons, and these interferons lead to expression of the genes, which these genes provide this innate antiviral effect, anti-proliferative and immunoregulatory effects. And the beauty of these interferons is they do immunoregulation by not creating this cytokine storm. So that is the distinct advantage of these interferons. And these interferons lead to inhibition of viral replication. So this is in brief the mechanism. So basically they act by creating your own endogenous genetic expression, which leads to your antiviral effects without leading to cytokine storm and inhibiting the viral replication. So this is in brief the mechanism of action. And for you to just remember this, the receptors for these interferons are vastly expressed in the lung. So that is the area of interest for COVID. And that is where you have this immunoregulatory activity or effects. So what did they find in the results? So they had 60 patients recruited in this particular Canadian study. So as you see, so in India, we are seeing this second wave where young patients are more severely affected. And if you look at this particular study, the median age group was younger population, 46 years, and the interquartile range was 32 to 54. And 58% of the patient population was females. And 19% of these patients were asymptomatic, but they were positive for COVID. So the recruitment was from the symptom onset to randomization. So the median duration was 4 to 5 days, which means after the symptom onset, the patients were recruited in around 4 to 5 days for this particular study. And here, as I mentioned, this is quite a robust study. They put in a lot of efforts. When I say they put in a lot of efforts, they have measured basically the viral uh, density or the presence of virus. And here the median baseline viral density was around 6.71 log copies per ml. So they've looked at the density or the concentration of the viral virus in these patients. So here they had 60 patients, 30 in the interferon lambda group and 30 in the control group. And what they found is at day 3, the reduction in the virus was 0.81 logs greater than in the control group, but that was not statistically significant. It means the viral reduction at day 3, it did not achieve statistical significance. But what they clearly found is at day 7, the virus became undetectable in interferon lambda group, and it became undetectable in control group in around 63%, and that was statistically significant. And as I said, one of the endpoints they looked was the serious adverse events, which also included hospitalization. So the adverse events, a mild increase in the liver enzymes was found to be more in the interferon lambda group. So when you look at the viral decline, so the green one is the viral load decline in the interferon lambda group, red one is the control group. As you see, the decline was significantly better. And if you see, this is the day-wise decline of coronavirus. So day 3 did not achieve statistical significance. Day 5, it started attaining statistical significance in its ability to reduce the virus by 3.81 logs. By day 7, the effect was maximum. So the reduction was 5.49, and that achieved statistical significance. And day 14, it was 6.01. Again, it was significant. So basically, these numbers show that at day 3 did not achieve. So the maximum effect after administration of interferon lambda was found at day 7, when the viral reduction, the log copies, was greatest at day 7. So that is the point for the listeners to bear in mind. And here again, they stratified the patients into 2 groups. They took patients where your viral density or the viral copies was more than 10 to the power of 6 copies per minute. Which means they took the cohort of patients where they had higher density of virus, and they saw what was the effect of this lambda. And they found the effect was more pronounced in patients where the viral copies were much larger. So as you see here, the significance was attained even at day 3, which means where patients had higher viral density, the effect of interferon lambda was much more pronounced, because at day 3 only they attained reduction in the viral copies. And again, even in this group, at day 7, it had the greatest effect, where it reduced the viral copies by 7.17 as compared to the placebo here, and all were statistically significant. And surprisingly, they took the patients where viral copies were less than 10 to the power of 6 copies per ml. And surprisingly, in this group where your viral load or the viral density was much lower, they found that the interferon lambda did not really achieve statistical significance in reducing the viral copies. So, which means to say, basically its effect was more visible, more evident, and more prevalent in patients who had a viral load. And these are the subset of patients which is of importance for us, because these are the patients who possibly will go on to cytokine storm. So if this interferon lambda has greater effect in reducing the viral copies in patients with higher viral density, it is a lot more beneficial. And anyway, in patients with lesser viral copies, they may not progress to other complications. So there it did not achieve great significance in reducing the viral copies. And then they looked at the symptom difference between the interferon lambda group and the control group. So when they looked at patients, the symptoms were higher in patients with higher viral load. So where the viral load was more than 10 to the power of 6, they had higher symptoms, but there was no objective difference in the symptoms between lambda group and control group. And severe symptoms also were equally present in both groups. But the respiratory, when they looked at the respiratory symptoms appeared to improve faster in the interferon lambda group, although it did not achieve statistical significance. And this effect, the respiratory symptoms getting better, this effect also was greatly evident in patients with higher viral load. As you see, the odds ratio is 5.88, although it didn't achieve statistical significance. And they looked at D-dimer level. So the reduction in the D-dimer level was much more pronounced in lambda group, interferon lambda group, as compared to the control group. As you see, it was 437 was the D-dimer level as compared to 841 in the control group, and that attained statistical significance. So if you read the manuscript, which is quite a detailed narrative, so this is the core essence of the whole results they found in this particular study. And in discussion, so this is very important for the listeners. So I'm sure many of the listeners would appreciate that now the Regeneron, which you're all aware was used in, was administered to Donald Trump early on last year. And this made a lot of news. So here they compared this Regeneron cocktail with the interferon lambda. So if you see the reduction in the virus at day 7 with Regeneron high dose, and now Regeneron is being introduced in India. So when you compare with the Regeneron, so the reduction in the viral load in Regeneron, even with high dose, was 0.51 log copies per ml, and with low dose it was 0.23 log copies per ml. If you compare this Regeneron with pegylated interferon lambda, the interferon lambda reduced the viral copies by 7.17 logs copies per ml, which means the viral load reduction was significantly more as compared to the Regeneron, which is being introduced now into India. And they compared this with another neutralizing antibody, LY-CoV 555. There, they showed at day 11, viral reduction was only 0.51 log copies per ml with high dose. But in interferon lambda, we saw at day 7, the viral reduction attained the highest, and it was around 7.17 log copies. So which means to say the interferon lambda holds a much larger promise in having more effectiveness in reducing the viral content. And what they've also found, discussed in the discussion part is basically the coronavirus, which is meant to lead to innate immune response and leading to the expression. So there can be an impaired induction in causing expression of these interferon 1 and 3. And there can be some inborn errors of metabolism or inborn errors of these expression of this interferon lambda or alpha, and sometimes there can be antibodies produced against these interferons. So what authors are basically trying to describe is because of whatever genetic reasons, there can be antibodies in certain group of patients against this interferon, and these are the patients who tend to get sicker. And there can be inborn errors of inborn errors, which leads to lack of expression of these interferons. And in these patients, possibly the severity of the disease would be much more. And here the authors also highlight the point in Solidarity trial. If you recall, they used interferon beta, and they did not show any sort of a clinical benefit. So authors again re-emphasize that lambda may be more superior to the interferon beta. So this was the core essence of this article which came in Lancet. So now Solidarity trial, having said that interferon beta did not have any clinical benefit, and Lambda is trying to ascertain that it has some benefit in reducing the copies and improving the respiratory symptoms and reducing the D-dimer. So the conclusions the authors make was the PEG interferon lambda accelerates the viral clearance, and this acceleration of viral clearance is a lot more pronounced where the viral load is much higher, more than 10 to the power of 6 copies per ml. And by reducing the viral load, it could possibly avert the clinical deterioration and shortens the duration of infectiousness, and it reduces the isolation time. So this is the conclusions the Lancet authors make. So following which I thought I'll discuss about this molecule which is being introduced in India, interferon alpha 2b. So this is the article which came in International Journal of Infectious Disease conducted by Indian authors. So its efficacy and safety of regulated interferon alpha 2b in moderate COVID phase 2 randomized controlled open label study. So here, see, as you saw the Lancet, they looked at regulated interferon lambda. Here they took interferon alpha 2b and they compared with standard of care. And again, this was a small study, phase 2 open label. They took patients more than 18 years, they 1:1 randomization. So the primary endpoint was to look at clinical improvement at day 15. And interferon alpha 2b, so we saw lambda. So interferon alpha 2b tends to bind to type 1 interferon receptors. So, and then this receptor gets, there is a dimerization of this receptor that happens. And because of this interaction of interferon alpha with this type 1 interferon, there is activation of the JAK and STAT activity. And this leads to expression of the genes like you saw in lambda. And this expression of the gene leads to innate antiviral effects. So it's a little similar to basically all these interferons lead to the expression of the genes which has antiviral properties or which leads to antiviral properties. So that's where interferons act. And the whole science of interferon alpha 2b comes from its usage in hepatitis C and hepatitis B virus. And that is where there is a lot of data and lot more conviction about its benefit. And some of the studies have shown this interferon alpha 2b has a direct antiviral effect, and it can reduce up to 10,000 fold reduction in the viral load. And there are authors like Zhou et al. Who showed the use of interferon alpha 2b showed significant reduction in the duration of virus shedding. And by reducing the virus shedding, they also found that it had a correlation in reducing the IL-6 levels. So what did they find in this study? So the median age, as you saw, now the age groups are much younger. It was 49.35 plus or minus 14. 30 patients were females, and they compared the baseline. So this was a much smaller study than the Lambda one. So I had only 40 patients, 20 in each group. So these are the baseline characteristics, no significant difference in the baseline characteristics. So they had 40 patients, 20 in the interferon alpha 2b and 20 in the standard of care. So they looked at primary endpoint, which is clinical improvement at day 15, and they saw the improvement was much better in alpha 2b compared to standard of care. And they looked at negative RT-PCR at day 7, and they found it was higher in interferon group. And they looked at negative RT-PCR at day 14, and that was also higher, 95% in interferon group as compared to standard of care. And adverse events were 11 and 18 each. So this is the graphical representation. So the orange one is interferon alpha 2b, as you see at day 7. And so you would see the reduction in the patients who are RT-PCR positive. And this is the oxygen requirements in the interferon alpha 2b group and the standard of care. And as you see, the orange one is the interferon 2b group, where the need for oxygenation was significantly less in the interferon group as compared to the standard of care. And they looked at the adverse events. So they had variable adverse events from headache, dry mouth, nausea, vomiting, difficulty in breathing, so which were equally distributed. So 11 in PEG interferon group as compared to 8 in the standard of care. So there was no huge difference, and all the side effects were mild, and this was a list of side effects. So in discussion, the authors discuss about the previous studies. So this was one study by Hadjad et al. In 2020, where they looked at 50 patients with severe and critically ill COVID patients. And there they found there was an impaired interferon type 1 expression. So there was no beta expression, and there was a reduced expression of interferon alpha. And so when there is a reduced expression of these interferon, it leads to increase in the viral load, and that leads to cytokine storm. So that was the conclusion made in this particular study by Hadgett. And this was another study by Bastard et al. In 2020, where they showed in patients who have life-threatening COVID-19, they looked at 10.2% of these patients had antibodies developed against this interferon alpha. So as I previously said, so there are distinct subset of patients who may have antibodies, who may have innate antibodies to these interferons, or who may have some abnormalities in in the expression of these interferons. And these are the subset of patients where it is hypothesized that COVID manifests in a much severe way, because you need interferon for the expression of the genes which leads to your antiviral effect. And if that is lacking, they would manifest in a more severe form. So this was reiterated in these studies. And Zhang et al. Again in 2020 demonstrated that there are 3.5% of the patients with severe COVID who have defective induction and amplification of these interferons, which leads to lower expression of type 1 and type 3 interferons. So again, all these studies, basically these three studies basically are telling us that if you have low interferons in the body and the low induction of interferons in the body, low amplification of interferons or antibodies against the interferons, or if you have inborn errors of these interferons, then these are the subset of patients who possibly will have severe COVID. So that is the justification. And it is again reiterated expression of these interferons. So if a patient expresses more of this interferon alpha or interferon lambda, so these are the patients who effectively clear the virus, and they have ability to reduce the replication of the virus. And expression of these interferons leads to activation of the innate and adaptive immune response. And this activation of this adaptive and innate immune response is very much essential for reducing the viral replication. So this is the science behind how interferons are beneficial. And the studies have shown that the mean shredding of virus happens for about 14 days. So this is very important. So this data comes from evaluation of 43 studies, which has looked into shredding involving 3,229 patients. So why this is important is, since the viral shredding happens for 14 days, which means there is no measure put in to reduce this viral replication. So these are possibly patients, some of them who can get into cytokine storm because this viral replication can continue to happen. So intervention by giving interferons, and if you are able to curtail the viral load and reduce the replication, possibly this would prevent patients progressing to getting much sicker. And another advantage, so one would say, what is the meaning of pegylated interferon? So what they found, and this again, this science comes from hepatitis C virus studies. So pegylated interferon, the distinct feature is they have a much higher half-life. Because they have a higher half-life by creating this pegylated version, so their efficacy increases and their ability to reduce the viral replication is much better. And this has been shown in the studies from the hepatitis C and hepatitis B virus. So all in all, friends, so these are the two studies. So I would say the study that came in Lancet is a very, very robust sort of a study. And I would urge the readers who are interested to go through that whole article, which is quite challenging in itself because there is a lot of detailing. But I have brought out the core essence of that study, where it shows basically the interferon lambda reduces your viral load significantly, and it may help in clinical improvement. And it does reduce the need for hospitalization to some effect. But it's a small study. And this is an Indian study, and this molecule is out. And I'm sure many of the listeners would know it's come in the name of Virifon or something. So this interferon alpha 2b is produced by Cadila, and this is available. So the dosage, interestingly, if you read the whole manuscript, nowhere the dosage is mentioned. Only in conclusion part they mentioned the dosage of interferon alpha 2b, which is 1 microgram per kg is the dose they have used in this study. Again, this study, very small study, 20 in each group, basically showing that it reduces your viral load. And what we found from the Lancet study is viral load was significantly reduced at day 7. And this effect was more pronounced in patients with a higher viral load. So that is the core essence of these studies. So thank you all. So I end with this beautiful quote in the devastating times we are in. So you can retire from a job, but don't ever retire from making extremely meaningful contributions in life. So this is very much applicable to every warrior out there battling this dreaded COVID India is facing. So at the end of it, I pray Almighty to help the humanity overcome this crisis and bless our nation with early recovery from COVID. So thank you all.